Numerous internet sites list a number of Clinton associates who have died mysteriously over the years. The names vary, but these among those most frequently cited as possible victims of some vast Clinton conspiracy. Kevin Ives and Don Henry, both 17, crushed by a train, August 23, 1987. Their deaths were ruled accidental, with a medical examiner saying they had fallen asleep on a railroad line after smoking marijuana, but a grand jury found they had been murdered before being placed on the tracks. They had allegedly stumbled on a plot to smuggle drugs and guns from an airport in Mena, Arkansas, that Bill Clinton was said to be involved in as state governor. Victor Razor, 53, small plane crash, July 30, 1992. The second finance co-chair of Bill Clinton's presidential campaign was killed along with his son during a fishing vacation in Alaska. Campaign press secretary Dee Dee Myers called Razor a major player in the organization. Paul Tully, 48, heart attack, September 25, 1992. A chain-smoking, heavy-drinking political consultant who weighed more than 320 pounds. Tully died 7 weeks before Clinton's first presidential election win. He had been political director of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, during Clinton's rise. Tully was on the left of the Democratic Party and usually worked for those who shared his views. However, he agreed to work for Clinton because he thought he was the only Democrat who could beat President George Bush. Paula Gober, 36, single car accident, December 7, 1992. She was Clinton's interpreter for the deaf for several years and traveled with him while he was governor of Arkansas. Her vehicle overturned on a bend, throwing her 30 feet. There were no witnesses. Vince Foster, 48, suicide, July 20, 1993. A longtime friend of the Clintons in Arkansas, new President Bill Clinton appointed him deputy White House counsel. Foster soon realized he hated the job and fell into a deep depression. He was found shot to death in Fort Marcy Park in Washington. Stanley Hurd, 47, small plane crash, September 3, 1993. An Arkansas chiropractor who, according to the book, A Profession of One's Own, treated the Clinton family. Hurd was asked by Bill Clinton to represent the practice as plans for Hillary Care were being finalized. His attorney Steve Dixon was flying him home from a healthcare meeting in Washington, D.C. On the way to the Capitol from his home in Kansas, Dixon's small plane developed problems, so he landed in St. Louis and rented another plane. That rented plane was the one that crashed in rural Virginia, killing both men. Jerry Parks, 47, shot to death, September 23, 1993. The head of security for Bill Clinton's headquarters in Arkansas was driving home in West Little Rock when two men pulled alongside his car and sprayed it with semi-automatic gunfire. As Parks's car stopped, a man stepped out of the Chevy and shot him twice with a 9mm pistol and sped off. Despite several witnesses, no one was ever arrested. The killing came 2 months after Parks had watched news of Foster's death and allegedly told his son Gary, "I am a dead man." His wife Lois remarried, and her second husband, Dr. David Milstein, was stabbed to death in 2006. Ed Willie, 60, suicide, November 29, 1993. Husband of Bill Clinton accuser Kathleen Willey, he was deeply in debt and shot himself to death on the day that his wife alleges she was groped by Bill Clinton in the Oval Office. Herschel Friday, 70, small plane crash, March 1, 1994. Friday was an Arkansas lawyer who Richard Nixon had once considered for the Supreme Court. Friday was known as a benefactor of Bill Clinton, serving on his campaign finance committee. Kathy Ferguson, 37, gun suicide, May 11, 1994. She was the ex-wife of Arkansas State Trooper Danny Ferguson, who was named in a sexual harassment suit brought by Paula Jones against Bill Clinton. Ferguson left a note blaming problems with her fiancé, Bill Shelton. A month later, Shelton, upset about the suicide verdict, killed himself. Ron Brown, 54, plane crash, April 3, 1996. Brown was chair of the Democratic National Committee during Bill Clinton's rise to the presidential nomination and was rewarded with the cabinet position. He was under a corruption investigation when his plane slammed into a mountainside in Croatia. Doctors who examined his body found a circular wound on the top of his head, which led to suspicions that he had died before the plane crashed, but that theory was later discounted. The crash was attributed to pilot error. Charles Meissner, 56, same plane crash as Brown. Meissner was Assistant Secretary for International Trade and had been criticized for allegedly giving special security clearance to John Wong, who later pleaded guilty to federal conspiracy charges for violating campaign finance laws, in a case that enmeshed the Clinton administration. Barbara Wise, 48, natural causes, November 29, 1996. Wise, who worked alongside Brown, Meissner and Wong in the Commerce Department, was found dead at her desk on the day after Thanksgiving 1996. Her death was originally classified as a homicide, but police later said Wise, 48, who had a history of severe ill health, had died from natural causes. A local TV station initially quoted an unidentified police source as saying her body was partially nude and her office was locked, but those reports were later denied. Mary Mahoney, 25, armed robbery, July 7, 1997. Mahoney was a White House intern during the Monica Lewinsky scandal. A lesbian gay rights activist, she never found herself troubled by Clinton, but she did take to counseling those who did. She was shot dead during a robbery at a Washington Starbucks where she worked. Jim McDougal, 57, heart attack, March 8, 1998. McDougal and his wife Susan were involved in the Whitewater real estate scandal that rocked the Clinton administration. Then the Clintons had invested $203,000 to buy land in the Ozarks, but the venture failed and McDougal was convicted of corruption for borrowing money from his savings and loan to cover the cost. He died in federal prison in Fort Worth, Texas. John Ash, 61, weightlifting accident, June 22, 2016. The anti-Guan diplomat dropped a dumbbell on his neck and asphyxiated himself at his home in Dobbs Ferry, New York. He was due to stand trial for allegedly receiving $500,000 from billionaire real estate developer Eng Lap Seng, who was involved in a scandal involving illegally funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Democratic National Committee during Bill Clinton's presidency. Seth Rich, 27, armed robbery, July 26, 2016. A rising star in the DNC, Rich was robbed at gunpoint after a night of drinking in Washington, D.C. The robbers took nothing, leaving his watch and wallet after shooting him several times in the back. Rich had allegedly been involved in the leak of documents that brought down Hillary Clinton ally Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Mark Weiner, 62, leukemia, July 26, 2016. Despite his condition, Weiner, a prodigious Clinton fundraiser, was due to attend the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia and was dressing on the day he was due to travel from his home in Rhode Island. But he suddenly felt ill and went to bed and never got up again. Victor Thorne, 54, suicide, August 1, 2016. Thorne shot himself in the head at the top of Nittany Mountain, Pennsylvania, on his birthday. He had written 4 books highly critical of the Clintons. He was also a Holocaust denier. Sean Lucas, 38, unexplained, August 2, 2016. Just days before his death, Lucas, a process server, had delivered papers to the Democratic National Committee's headquarters in Washington, D.C., filming himself as he did so. He was found dead in his apartment in the city.